Check test 1, 2. No desktop audio. Oh, there we go. Desktop audio. Alrighty. Come on. It'll be a video, should be coming up here in a second. Hi, Jim. Good to see you this evening. Hello, everybody. Let's see. Come on, transition. Come on. Hello, Philip Nevels. Working on getting the video to start here. I'm not sure what's going on. Let me try this. And then let me try this. Come on. Good evening, everybody. Well, hello, Camp Goer 1. I did works no stinky pot. Yeah, of course it does. Was there ever any doubt? Maybe I think I need to do this. I have to mute that. All right, come on. Okay, so do you guys have video? Let me, what's going on here with the video? No data. Come on. Okay, there it is. What do you know? Finally. Quite a bit of latency tonight. Yes, OBS. And it can be sketchy. And it looks like I've got quite a bit of latency, so I'm going to watch the comments and not watch the screen. Hey, everybody. Good evening. If you're just coming in, we'll get rolling with the main part of the show here shortly. But Gary Boyd, hi, good to see you tonight. Camp Goer 1, what's your name? Just your first name's fine. If you're new to, if you're just coming in, Camp Goer has a kind of a cute little YouTube channel. She's just getting started. So okay, so ignore that slide change. We should be, there we go, back to live, and it looks finally like things are getting squared away here. Hello, Larry. Hey, I have an answer for you on your generator, so don't let me forget. Oh, did you? Oh, Linda, okay. I will watch it. I do actually watch your videos. I'm terrible, though. I don't oftentimes comment. Speaking with Camp Goer 1, I saw that you had Jamie Diamond out there helping you with some stuff on your rig here recently. Jamie's such a great guy. You know, what he does is just amazing. I'll give him a quick shout out. Check out Enigmatic Nomadic. He is on YouTube here. Really like what he does. He is really into helping his community, which are pretty much bus lifers, van lifers, that kind of stuff, even RV'ers, as Linda found out, Camp Goer. He used to have a van build down there in the desert southwest, just outside of Parker, and we'd do all kinds of work for free for folks that couldn't afford to pay to have stuff done. And so I really found it. He's done some great things, and I was actually going to help him with one of the van builds. I guess this would have been a couple years ago, but unfortunately, I ended up with a conflict and couldn't go down and help him out. I actually had to go back to Tucson early for an ill family member. Anyway, let's see who's all on tonight. Carl Jones. Hi, Carl. Good to see you from South Carolina. Spring is in the air for sure. Let's see, Jim, Linda. Hi, Jim. Good to see you in the chat. Sue Kelly, welcome aboard. Oh, and he fixed your wipers and taillight. Yes, he did. He's a good guy. All right, so let's go ahead. Larry, I looked into the thing on your generator, and as best I can tell, there was a number of reports that the float in the carburetor bowl may be sticking. Have you removed the bowl off the bottom of the carburetor and checked it to see if there's any sludge or any dirt or dust or anything like that that's in that bowl? That could be clogging things up and causing the problems that you were describing. In Northwest Arkansas, I know that Larry's up there in North Arkansas, out there. So anyway, I did have a question come in, a couple of questions that have come in that I forgot to mention. One last week that I did want to mention, and so I'm going to run over here real quick and pick it up because I thought it was interesting. And this has to do with maintaining your holding tanks. I've had this reported back to me a couple of times that people have noticed that when you add the borax to the tank that it doesn't dissolve, and that occasionally they'll see the borax coming out as crystals in their drainage. You've got to stir that borax and Dawn, if you're using the Dawn, but particularly the borax. You want to add, 2 to 3 cups of water to your toilet bowl. Put the borax in there and swirl it up with your toilet brush or whatever, and that will help with dissolving it. It's not terribly soluble, especially, and it can get kind of crusty if you don't stir it up and get it diluted a little bit before you dump it in the tank. Let's see here. No, I am in Idaho. Yeah, generator problems are a real common problem. Yeah, I'm in Idaho. I'm in Pocatello, Idaho, southeast Idaho. It's at the intersection of I-15 and I-86. I chose to come back here because I have lots of friends and family in the area, and it's turned out to be really good because I've had lots of help. Oh, that's a good point. Gene Kidd just mentioned that ethanol gas will wreak havoc on small engine if it sets too long. That's absolutely true. It turns out that the ethanol is really hard on metal and causes it to corrode. So, exactly, Aaron. Anyway, so it's a good idea to use stabilizer in your fuel, particularly if you're going to be parking or leaving your generator set all winter with fuel in it. You definitely want to put some fuel stabilizer in it, particularly if you are using ethanol gas, which is almost impossible to get away from. I do have a quick ethanol story I guess I'll share real quick. For me, ethanol gas in my Subaru Crosstrek, I get about 10% less mileage than I do with non-ethanol. So in other words, if I'm running regular full boat gas, with no ethanol in it, my mileage will go up about 10%. And then if I run the ethanol, my mileage drops about 10%. And the price differential, there's actually a Maverick gas station just up the road here from me, a couple blocks, that sells non-ethanol gas. And lo and behold, it's about 10% more expensive. Right now, gas is running $3.03 a gallon approximately for unleaded 85 octane, 87, probably 85 or 87. And so if you're paying 10% more for ethanol gas, you're probably not saving anything except maybe some wear and tear on your vehicle. Let's see. Linda says Jamie helped her start her Predator Jenny. It's on board. Yeah, not to be confused with Iowa. Aaron Jameson, yeah. Well, here's a funny story. When I got discharged from the Army, I was discharged to the Iowa National Guard. And that took about 4 months to get sorted out. Since I was in the Idaho National Guard, or came back to the Idaho National Guard. I did want to mention that I am looking to see if Food Porn Chef is in tonight. I think I have something I want to mention to him. So, Food Porn Chef, if you're out there, drop us a note. Let us know you're in the stream, because I do have something I want to update on a discussion we were having around your solar panels and batteries last week. Okay, Fantastic Dreamer, good evening and welcome. Question is, I have my first Class A motorhome, gas motorhome, last summer here in Vegas, 110 degrees. Kiddo had a Portman dog, but in LA, but the gen kept dying from radiating heat, I found out. Okay, that could be a bit of a problem. In high temperatures like that, it's not that uncommon for small gas engines, when they get hot, to vapor lock. And what that really is that instead of there being gas in the float bowl of the carburetor, it turns into vapor, and that causes basically the airflow to stop through the carburetor, which can cause it to stop running. Then as it cools off a little bit, then you can probably get the generator to restart. I don't know of a good solution for that, unfortunately, especially in those high temps like in Vegas, 110 degrees. If anybody has any ideas on how to stop that, drop a note into the comments here, and let's share that with Fantastic Dreamer there out of Vegas. Larry says he never runs ethanol in any of his small engines. That's a good idea. $3.29 a gallon today for ethanol free. That's about what it's going to be here. $3.30 is approximately what it was in Pocatello for ethanol free gas. Okay, Camp Goer 1, Linda, I have a little bit of desalination on my driver's side. Wonder if there's a way to get that puffy spots out. Do you mean delamination? I suspect that's what you mean, Linda, is delamination. Clarified that, and yeah, I might have some suggestions on that. Gene, I agree with you guys. Let's see, I missed one. Victor Murray, we have a few stations that sell non-ethanol gas in southeast Missouri. Yeah, it's sometimes can be really hard to find. I know there's a station near my dad that sells non-ethanol gas. Yes, delamination. Okay, so I'm assuming it's fiberglass, and there is a way that you can repair that. It's tricky. You have to very carefully, with a small diameter drill through the bubble, inject it full of fiberglass resin, and then clamp it back together using something like a piece of wood that you can press against it, and sometimes that will help. Otherwise, the only way to fix it is to sand it out and to re-fiberglass it. The delamination is pretty bad, but it can be fixed. It is tricky, though. I didn't get your whole quote, Larry, from Google, or excuse me, Aaron. Used to put wooden clothespins on the gas lines of old cars. Helps with the heat. Oh, yeah. That's a thought. I think I missed a comment there. Let's see. Okay, later from Cummins, but during COVID, so they just sent it back without talking with me. They said it was the heat. Can anyone help? Yeah, that you have a gasser. Let me go back and read that. Yes, first Class A gas motorhome, and I'm assuming that the generator is in the front, and also their engine's in the front. Is that correct, Fantastic? Okay, excellent. Aaron has an answer for Fantastic, and that's a good point, and I forgot about that because I haven't had to deal with vapor lock for a very long time. But he recommends that the first thing is to route the fuel lines away from any exhaust parts, heater hoses, etc. You can also install heat shields, which would be just little metal shields that would protect the gas line from getting too hot, and that might help a little bit too. Okay, electric fuel pump near the tank. I suspect that she probably has an electric fuel pump due to the distance, but it's hard to say. We'll see what if she comes back and lets us know if the engine and Jenny are up front on that. Gary Boyd, for the Jenny that vapor locks, check to see where the exhaust runs. If it goes by a fuel line or the muffler is close to the carb or fuel line, put a heat shield in between. So it looks to me like your best bet, Fantastic, is going to be to try to check the fuel lines and make sure they're not getting too close to a really hot source like the exhaust manifold and exhaust pipe, anything like that that could get that gas hot before it gets to the engine, because the hot gas is going to flash off and turn to vapor faster than cooler gas. Engine in the front, generators in the driver's side, halfway in the middle of the coach. Okay, so that tells me the fuel line is probably coming back. Yeah, you might want to look in where the generator is, and if you can identify the fuel line, it should be a black hose about 3/8 of an inch in diameter going up to the carburetor. See if you can trace that back and make sure it's not close to any hot things like exhaust pipes, the exhaust manifold, or anything like that. Also, you might want to crawl underneath and see if you can trace the fuel line, because the exhaust pipe from the engine in your RV may be running along the frame, and if the fuel line for the generator is close to that, that could be heating it up as well and causing a lot of trouble. So that might be something to look into. It might be something you can check out yourself, but if you're not comfortable with it, then you might call and find, what was the name? I took my RV into an RV shop down there. This has been 6 or 7 years ago, and had them do some work on it, and I was really impressed with them. I'll see if I can look that up here in just a minute there, Fantastic, and see what we can figure out for you. Okay, change the tires on your fifth wheel. No less than every 6 years. And that's going to be dependent upon the condition of the tires. If they're not cracked up, if they're not dried out, if they look to be in pretty good shape, then you're pretty good, but never run them over 6 years. And that's a good rule of thumb for any RV, particularly Class A's. Definitely don't want to run those tires more than 6 years. It's also a really good idea to keep them covered. If you don't, get some covers. They're fairly inexpensive, and cover your tires when it's not in use, particularly if you're in a hot climate or it sits in the sun where the sun can directly bear down on the tires. But no less than every 6 years. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to roll back up here. The Jenny, the Vapor Lock, Gary Boyd's quiet. Okay, Linda from Camp Goer 1. Took it to an RV shop and asked him to fix it. He drilled big holes in the side and put vents on it. Looks dumb now and did nothing to fix. Oh, the delamination. Yeah, that's unfortunate. You know, gosh, I hear this so many times. And it just breaks my heart to hear people get ripped off by RV repair shops. And it happens a lot. I mean, it happens more than I'd like to hear. Which is partly why I've done so many RV how-to videos, is to help you avoid getting into that ripped off situation. But yeah, man, I might have some. I know a guy that knows a guy. Not kidding. I know I have a friend that does a lot of fiberglass work, particularly on boats. I will ask him about fixing the delaminations. Now, let me ask you a question, Linda. Is the delamination at a seam, or is it out in like the body, in the out in the field, if you will, rather than on a seam? Okay. Also from Linda, my freezer works on my fridge, but the refrigerator section doesn't. Do I know why? Um, Gas absorption fridges, like you find in dual fuel RVs, are ones that would run either on propane or electricity. And the older they get, the less efficient they get. The issue is that you have to get good air turning over behind the fridge for them to work properly. And in my RV, when I still had my Never Cold, there's a video on my channel about my replacing the Never Cold, sorry, Norcold, but we call them Never Colds. I was having trouble with it right after I first got it, and I took it to an RV shop in Las Vegas, as a matter of fact. I just can't remember the name of it. And what they did was they took a pair of fans, and they put some fans inside the cabinet behind the fridge to help move more air through the fridge, and that helped quite a bit. So why the freezer works and the fridge doesn't, I can't really tell you for sure, except that I know that RV fridges sometimes can be a pain. I'm trying to remember. I have watched your channel, Linda, Campground 1, for those that are just tuning in. And I don't remember how old your RV is. Please remind me. On the body, okay. Linda writes back, the lamination's on the body. Yeah, I think you're probably going to end up having to either try to use some resin and get the bubble to go down, or have somebody that is competent take the bubble out, re-fiberglass it, and then match the paint. I know it's not the best answer, but that delamination is a huge problem. And it'll keep getting worse if it's not fixed properly. Oh yeah, there's a good one too. Gary Boyd responded to Gene Kidd about tires, and that's a good point. Particularly on towables, trailers, fifth wheels, those sorts of things. Don't forget to do your wheel bearings, to check your wheel bearings and make sure they're in good shape. In fact, that's a good point that I need to add to my spring checklist, which is almost done, by the way. Hopefully it'll get done next week. I got slammed this past week with way too much work, and I wanted to get it out for folks just as soon as I could. Yeah, that's a good question, Gary. To Linda, Campground 1, is the delamination under a window or near a roof seam? Let's see. Sue Kelly, is there an inexpensive way to get better signal through the school bus? Is it the metal? I'm assuming you mean cell phone signal. And absolutely, Sue, yes. Anytime you're inside of a metal compartment like that, that will reflect and restrict some of the signal that's coming to or going from your cell phone. The only way I know for sure is to get yourself a cell phone booster. And I had one in my RV. In fact, there's several videos on my channel around my WeBoost 4G-X cell phone booster. And after I put that in, I never had a point where I didn't have cell signal. In fact, I was at Wind Whistle Campground, which is about 40 miles south of Moab and about 30 miles north of Monticello, Utah, out near the Needles Overlook. And the camp host come over and was teasing me. He says, "Oh, you'll never get a cell signal here." And I have I had a directional antenna on a couple pieces of conduit. There's a video on my channel if you're interested, and you can go check it out. That I stuck that up. I tuned it up, found the cell signal, got it all working, and I was sitting there with good 4G signal, streaming Netflix, YouTube, all of that stuff. Out there at a spot where the campground host said he'd never see it. So I gave him all of the information about my booster and the antenna I was using and so on and so forth. And he sent me an email about a month after I had been there, and said he had gone and got that situation and it was perfect. He loved it and was very appreciative of my recommendations for him. If you're just checking in, be sure and let us know where you're watching from today over in the comments. And of course, don't forget, if you have a question or a comment, make it. We'll get to you in just a minute. I'm going to take a quick pause here, and I want to show you something I have been working on. In fact, something I did that's part of my spring checklist. Let me get over here and flip over to this and come over here and hide that so you can see this. I did post a little checklist. This has been something that I have had requested so many times, and finally got around to getting it put together as a part of my spring checklist, which, by the way, I'm adding wheel bearings to. Thank you very much for the reminder. But I put together a real quick article. There'll be a following YouTube video coming in the very near future about how to sanitize your freshwater tank. It's pretty important to do that. First, it's really important to sanitize your freshwater tank if you have any kind of malodors or the water doesn't taste so good. It's almost impossible to get all of the water out of your freshwater tank, even with your drains and all that sort of stuff. And so as it sits, that water's going to sit there and get stale and taste nasty. So I think that sanitizing it is really straightforward. All you need is a little bit of bleach, and 4 or 5 hours. It's better to wait overnight. But as you can see here, there's an article over on my website at trboland.com. I invite you to go over and check it out. If you need to sanitize your freshwater tank, and you should every spring before you start using your RV, there's a really simple, easy step-by-step setup to be able to do that. Get back here. Okay, so back to the questions. Just as a note, there's I've got about 3 minutes of latency between the video and the questions, so bear with me. I will get to your questions. Let's see. Sue asked me a signal through the school bus. Yeah, that would be some kind of a cell phone booster. Aaron mentions, and I have done this too as well, Aaron, was using some old PC fans, some fans out of like a computer case to move air through there. It works really well. In fact, what I did is before Fry's Electronics went out of business, I went and got like this big 12-inch fan, and I mounted it to the back of the cover that goes over the fridge. Now, usually on those fridges, there's an external cover, and all I did was I took and I mounted a big 12-volt. They're 12 volts, right? So I put this big 8-inch fan behind that and pushed a lot of air through the compartment, and that helped with the fridge for a while too. But with the fridge staying cold or getting colder, particularly in warm climates or humid climates, those camping fridges, dual fuels, tend not to work very good. Linda, I took my RV to get the propane tank filled up. It was only half full. And after it was full, it started leaking awful everywhere. So bad I had to call the fire department. Yes, the tank can be overfilled, but it's more likely that they might not have got the bleed valve or the bleed screw shut tight. What did the fire department find? Were they able to fix the leak for you? Were they able to locate the leak? That's a horrible thing. Oh, and she also reports yes under the bathroom window. Yeah, it's not that uncommon for those blisters. Those bathroom windows or any kind of a penetration through the wall of your RV is going to cause a little less integrity in that. And as your RV moves down the road, I always have said it was like a rolling earthquake. And so it's bumping and bouncing and it's raking and rocking and racking back and forth, particularly if you're on rough roads and turning corners. And so your body of the RV is going to be twisting and racking and moving around, and that can cause some delamination as well. You might get lucky, and if the delamination's close enough to the window, a qualified RV repair guy might be able to pop that window out and get enough resin down in between the layers of lamination of the fiberglass to get that thing to seal up. Okay. 96. Okay, Linda. I suspect your fridge is probably... back to the fridge thing. Let's talk about fridges for just a minute. As those fridges get older and older, they get less reliable and they start to basically wear out. They're sealed units. Typically, those RV fridges use a concept called absorption, and they use ammonia rather than Freon like you would find in a normal air conditioner or in a normal fridge. They use ammonia. And so what happens is that ammonia boils. As it rises and starts to condense, it cools. It sucks heat from the exterior and it cools itself off. It gets to the top of the fridge and it's cold. It turns back to a liquid and then it trickles back down into the boiler. It boils it again, and as the ammonia gas goes up, it goes through some coils and it causes the fridge to cool. What killed my fridge ultimately was that my boiler burned through. It had a little hole in it and I lost all my ammonia. So that was what forced me to finally say, you know, I'm done with it and I'm replacing my fridge. Video on my channel, by the way. Julie Gage, Vegas, hi. Welcome. I think it was 100 degrees there today, wasn't it? Lan Chow. Okay. He wants to hook up a regular barbecue. Does it make a difference on high flow hose or low flow hose? I am getting confused on videos that don't say either. Okay, your barbecue is going to use a very small amount of gas. A low flow hose will be just fine. You don't have to worry about it. Just go and get the correct connections that you're going to... I'm assuming you're going to hook it up to the propane tank on your RV. And yeah, low flow hose, any hose will work fine. Your barbecue does not use that much gas. You should be just fine. Hope that helps, Lan. Dennis Strickland, Indian Harbor Beach, Florida. Love to have some beach time. I sure miss seeing the beach. Thanks for coming along with us today, Dennis. Okay, Campground 1 says, the guy blew out the seal under. They never let any pressure out first. They blamed it on the age of my propane tank. Huh. Well, I think that's just one more example of people not taking responsibility for their actions. And as long as it was filled to the correct pressure, I can't imagine the seal blew out. But it could have. I mean, I wasn't there. It is possible that those seals do get old. It goes back to, I had a question that came up last week that you didn't get to hear the answer to. But in short, the lady was reporting that she was having a hard time getting her propane tank completely full. And I made some suggestions on how that could be repaired. In the case of propane, I always recommend that you go to a propane dealer. Okay? Go straight to the AmeriGas store where they fill tanks. Go find the big, white, long, 10,000-gallon propane tank sitting out there alongside the road with the little pump station in the front. That's the place you want to go to get your propane tank looked at and those sorts of things. They know what's going on. They know how to fix that stuff. You're going to be a lot better off a lot further down the road if you go to a guy that knows what they're doing. Don't trust the guy at the filling station, at the Flying J or at the Pilot or wherever you might be getting your propane to know what to do and also kind of keep an eye on them. Let's see. I have a comment here from Kimberly Hake. Hake? I'm sorry if I'm brutalizing your name. Thank you for this. Sanitizing the freshwater tank. We'll do this tomorrow. Love my videos on the black tank. In good situation with borax and Dawn. Well, thank you so much, Kimberly. Yeah, it just works. You know, it just works. Sue Kelly. Oh, hey. Thank you so much, Jason. I greatly appreciate the super chat. It makes this all worthwhile. I don't really need it, but just coming here and helping you folks with your questions or comments. I've got 40 years experience RVing. I mean, my first RV was my 58 Willys Jeep station wagon, and I was 17 years old. I used to go car camping in it all the time. That's a story for another day. Maybe we'll get to that. Sue Kelly, That's great. That's the one I ordered. Go back and check out your video. Thank you. Okay, great. Okay, and Gary, campfire when your window likely needs to be resealed. That's a good point, Gary. And that would be something that a qualified and conscientious repair shop, when they pull that window out to see if they can attempt to fix the delamination in the fiberglass, they should replace the seal. Absolutely. And it may be that there's water leaking down between the plies of the fiberglass from that wheel, that's the window. It could be leaking, so you might look around the bottom of that window, and it looks like if there's any water leaking in anywhere, you probably want to get that addressed, because untreated water can really cause a lot of trouble going down the road. Jason asks, composite propane tank, is it worth the money? And what about tire pressure monitors? Okay, I swear by tire pressure monitors, TPMS. I had a 10 point system on my RV, so I could watch my Toad's tires, the Toad vehicle, and all 6 tires on my Class A. My only complaint about it was, and I had the EZE tire pressure monitoring system, and they're all about the same. They all do about the same thing. I'm not sponsored. I'm not gonna try to sell you one or the other. But what I am going to tell you is that in a Class A, when you're towing, you're most likely going to need the little booster. And this just irritates the bejesus out of me, because the booster's $60. You already spent $500 on the tire pressure monitoring system, and then they want another $60 to make it work right. I was a little chaffed. I ultimately ended up having to get the booster, but I definitely recommend tire pressure monitoring. It's a great idea. Could save you a lot of trouble down the road. And there's nothing that'll ruin a vacation or a weekend out with the camper like a flat tire. Excuse me. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, you asked about composite propane tank. Well, they're certainly much lighter than a steel propane tank. I don't know, Jason, let's see. I think you have the 32-foot travel trailer. If I remember correctly, you were on last week. I would think composite tanks on that would probably be fine. You're going to save yourself probably 20, 30 pounds, well, 20 pounds anyway per tank. And they're used all over Europe. In fact, you can't hardly buy a steel propane tank in Europe anymore. They're pretty much all composite. And you know, they're just as safe, in my opinion, as the steel tanks. If you have a Class C or a Class A or even a Class B with an underbody mounted propane tank, those things are real expensive to replace. I looked at potentially replacing mine, pardon me, on my Class A I guess it's been 2016. And it's going to be about $800 for the tank, plus freight. And so what I ended up doing was I went and I did a really super careful job of cleaning up the tank. There were only a couple of rust spots that looked even bad. I got my micrometer out and I measured the depth of them, and they were well within the tolerances that I could find online that said it would be safe to run your propane tank. So I scrubbed everything up, wire brushed it, primed it, and painted it. Again, thanks for your super chat, Jason. Linda wants to know what kind of refrigerator you should replace it with. That's a really good question. I believe you have a Class C. I put a full-size residential fridge in my rig because I had space for it. I think in your particular case, Linda, you're probably going to be best off with a Dometic, which is probably what you have now, and they're kind of expensive. Get your nitroglycerin, get your nitroglycerin handy, because it's going to give you a heart attack when you find out how much they want for a new fridge. But if you're dry camping and you're out and about and you don't have good reliable power, having the dual fuel fridge is super handy. Okay, Lynn, you're in Phoenix, yeah. And it's hot down there. I know I saw the other day, I guess it was last Friday, they were close to 100 degrees. So getting those RV fridges to work properly in the heat can be a real trick. Yeah, propane dehaler. Yeah, you want to go see them. Okay, Dennis Strickland. I keep my black tanks nice and fresh with the borax and Dawn soap. Yeah, it works. It just flat out works. Um, uh, okay, there you go. Aaron Jameson is mentioning to Linda over at Campground 1. He has a video that you should watch for replacing a fridge. That's probably a good idea. Go over and check out Aaron's channel. Okay, Gene Kid has a question about winterizing. Using compressed air or using antifreeze? Here's the deal with the compressed air. It works pretty good, but if you have any kind of a loop in your water line, there's going to be water that's going to accumulate in that loop, because I don't care how long you blow those lines out with air, you're never going to get all the water out of it, and eventually it's going to find the lowest spot in that line and freeze. So if you're in a cold climate, I highly recommend that you go ahead and winterize with the antifreeze. It's not terribly expensive. It's $3 or $4 a gallon. My RV, it took 2.5 gallons to winterize it this year. And then to flush it out, of course, in the spring tune-up checklist that's coming here real soon, it only takes a few minutes. Just flush the lines with plain fresh water. It flushes right out, and you shouldn't have any trouble. By the way, it's pink and it's alcohol based. It's not glycol based like your antifreeze you'd find in your car. And so it washes out really fine and really nice, and it's not a huge problem to flush it out of your lines. Yeah, the Phoenix area is terrible for good RV shops. Okay, so I can tell you that I took my rig into, I'll look it up here, when I was in Tucson, and had them replace the awning, and they did a great job, and they're really good. Roadrunner RV, I think it was Roadrunner. Hang on just a minute here. I'll give you their exact name. Merrigan's Arizona Roadrunner in Tucson. 4324 North Flowing Wells. If you're back in that area or you have the opportunity, go down to Tucson and go see those guys. Give them a call. They'll help you out, and they treat you right. They won't rape. Well, sorry, they won't rake you over the coals. Let's put it that way. Good people down there. Okay, great. Winterizing, we chatted with that. Gary Boyd, I'm approaching the 50-year mark for RVing as well. Gary, it sneaks up on us, right? Look. Oh, and by the way, I got I got all my hairs cut, and I'm all cleaned up, and my beard's all nice and short. That won't last long, trust me. RV shop, see a woman come in the shop, and they really rock you for the money. Yeah, that's why I like the Roadrunner Americans down in Tucson. They're super nice guys, and they've been there for 35 years. The shop's a little sketchy looking out front because it's been there for so long. But here's a couple of things. I had busted the turntable, the glass turntable in my microwave. I looked around for one and I couldn't find one. Tried to buy one online, $65 for this piece of glass plate. I'm like, what the heck? Well, I had my RV over there. Like I said, I was getting my main awning replaced. And I just happened to mention to him, hey, you know what I could really use? Because they have a bunch of spare parts there. They had they had a bunch of old Onan generators, stuff like that. Stuff you're going to accumulate when you're in the RV repair business for a long time. And I asked him, Eddie, Eddie is his name. One of the guys down there, his name was Eddie. And I says, hey, you don't happen to have this? And boom, he was back in 5 minutes. And he gave it to me. He just gave it to me. He didn't charge me any money for it. Of course, the awning costs about $4,000, but that was on insurance. Yeah, Dometics, yeah, 1500. In your Class C, that might be a little higher than what I would expect. Um, yeah, okay. Campground one says she has a small two-way fridge from someone in a new in a box, getting the old one out. Actually, they're not that terribly difficult to get out. You'll probably need a second set of hands. Either my video where I show you deinstalling my old Dometic, or Aaron's would be very helpful in getting you down a ways down the road and getting it installed. Or, again, talk to Merrigan's. Uh, you know, oh, by the way, they had a really nice spot that I just stayed the night. I had to stay overnight because we got the wrong arms. The arms for the awning were the wrong ones. They were a little bit too short, and I just stayed right there. It was perfect. Very nice, in a nice shady spot they had out behind the shop. Yeah, and Aaron kind of reinforced what I said. Just a few screws. It's heavy, and you need some help moving it out the door. And in fact, in my case, I had to pull the doors off the fridge to get it through my door. No big deal. Just a few screws. And baking soda would work pretty good. Yes, Larry. Larry mentions that he cleans his water lines with baking soda first. Let it set for 24 hours, drain, then put fresh water in. Yeah, that's just fine. Baking soda works pretty good as well. Okay, thanks, Gary. You have a great evening. Merrigan's Arizona Roadrunner is the shop in Tucson. 4324 North Flowing Wells. And yeah, like I say, the outside the shop looked a tad sketchy, but the guys were on it. They did an exceptionally good job for me. I was very happy with the results of their work, and they made dang sure that I was really happy with with the product that I got. Okay, so we're about 50 minutes into this. Any more questions or comments out there? I invite you to go ahead and throw them in. Check in, let me know where you're watching from this evening. I'm always curious. I know we got people in Florida, South Carolina, obviously Arizona, a couple from Vegas in tonight. I'm personally in Idaho, where it's springtime and we're 55 degrees today and 43 degrees tomorrow and expecting rain and snow. That's springtime in the Rockies, I guess. Hello, Robert from Tennessee. Julie, my 3-year-old A. Okay. Voice recognition sucks, don't it? Sherry Ross from Cali. Hi, Sherry. Nice to have you in tonight. And of course, Aaron Jameson. Aaron, I'm going to ask you to kick me an email, trbolin@gmail.com. I want to chat with you about potentially becoming a moderator on the live chats. So if you get a chance, throw me an email and we'll work out the details via email. But I would like to, I haven't had trouble yet, but if I start to have trouble with spammers and bots and that kind of crap, definitely would like to have somebody act as a moderator. So far, it's so good. I'm able to manage it. But at some point, these live streams, again, I'm planning on doing some integration with Zoom, so we'll be able to have a two-way conversation. Might make the stream go a little better, so hopefully that will help a little bit. But and as it gets more popular, and it's starting to get popular, I've been quite surprised, to be honest with you. I might need some help with some moderation, and so I was thinking that maybe I might tap you for that, Aaron, if you're available. Yeah, and I don't know anybody in Phoenix. I know a lot of people in Phoenix, Linda, but none of them that I would have help me with my RV other than to hold this or, that kind of stuff. Steve Linder, enjoying the live stream. Thank you. Ever heard of the chassis battery disconnect switch going bad? Yes. I just had to replace mine last fall. I guess it was probably in November. Because my RV's been sitting in the driveway, and of course, I'm in the house now. But I do my I do my monthly maintenance religiously. Even when I was parked static for winter, all winter, once a month, I'll start the generator and let it warm up and run it under load. I'll start the engine, let it warm up, come up to operating temperature, those sorts of things. I would run the jacks up and down, bring the jacks up and down. I'd bring my slides in and out. Every month, religiously, summer, winter, spring, and fall, if I'm not in that RV, I'm doing that. When I've got the opportunity, and if it's storage, then I'll take it out and drive it around, and that gets the oil all moving around inside the transmission, the crankcase, your differentials, and that sort of stuff. Helps keep the seals and everything oiled up. Also helps keep moisture out of the crankcases, out of your differentials, and so on and so forth. The moisture can cause a little bit of rust and those sorts of things. And so, yeah, I've always, once a month. Well, I went out to start it, and it wouldn't start, and I couldn't figure it out. And so I start to do some troubleshooting. I go back, and what had happened was apparently some moisture had got in behind the switch, and it froze, and it cracked that switch, and the two contacts on the battery disconnect, sometimes called the salesman switch, but on the battery disconnect, which is the master disconnect for the chassis batteries, not your house batteries, was busted. And so what I did is, instead of spending $100 for the replacement switch, I went and got a 300 amp Blue Sea system battery disconnect, and I just replaced it with that, and it works perfect. Haven't had a lick of trouble with it. So yes, brand new chassis batteries, but drains off overnight even with the disconnect off. Ooh. You have a Monaco coach. This is Steve Linder. He is a Monaco coach that has brand new chassis batteries, but drains off overnight even with the disconnect off. Sneak current can be a real problem to track down. What sneak current is, I got a few minutes here. We'll talk a little bit about sneak current. Thank you, Aaron. What sneak current is that even though you have everything turned off, there may be some current still used. This has been a concept that's been kicking around for quite a while, particularly with energy savings in your house. If there is an LED light on it, even if it's not turned on, like most TVs nowadays, we don't have any patience as a humanity, and we want instant on. So to get that instant on, there's always a little bit of juice being used by the device. So when you push the button on the TV, bang, it turns on instantly. Okay? Well, that's called sneak current, and there's something going on there, Steve, that because to draw down a set of chassis batteries, and I'm assuming you probably have the two batteries, the two 12-volt batteries on your chassis, to drag those down overnight, that's a lot. So you got something going on there. A couple of suggestions I'll make. First, start by disconnecting the negative terminal and letting it go overnight and see if they still drag down. You might have a short somewhere or something like that. Something is using, there's something going on there if it's dragging those batteries down overnight. And you probably want to look into it because it can be a huge pain. Now, a lot of Class A's will have a battery boost system. I know my Newmar does. And so if you get out into the boondocks, and for whatever reason your chassis batteries go down, in my particular case, there's a switch up on the dash I can push, and that will allow me to start the coach off my house batteries. So that's definitely something you want to try to run down. Again, disconnect the negative terminal on the battery and make sure that it's not, the batteries don't go flat. If they go flat, there's a small chance that you've got bad batteries. But yeah, I would be really interested. Be sure and check back and let us know what you found out there, Stephen, because that's an interesting problem. Okay, Dennis Strickland. Go to my YouTube channel and search for cell phone booster on my YouTube channel. There's three or four videos in there. There's the install video. Then I show you how I'm getting good signal from Ocotillo Wells, California. And then there's another video in there where I'm showing you that I'm getting 85 meg downloads from 50 plus miles from the cell phone tower, and that's out here at Birch Creek, just north of me, about 2 hours from here. One of my favorite places to go and dry camp. And then on my website, there is an article, was the WeBoost 4G-X cell phone booster worth the money? And that's a brief write-up on my website about that. But I think you'll probably get more pertinent information if you go to the YouTube video on my channel around installing that video. I believe those came out about 2 years ago. Okay, let's see here. 3-year-old air conditioner crackles from time to time. Julie, crackles, does it, describe the crackle. Does it sound like a short? You know how electric short sounds? Or is it a crackle like when the fan is running? Help me out there just a little bit, and maybe we can get you an answer. Dennis Strickland bragging. It's a low of 70 degrees tonight in Indian Harbor Beach. I think the low for tonight might be 24. Let's see what Mr. Google says. Oh, 34. So it'll be 34 overnight. Today's high was 54. Let's see here. My favorite campground destination in the past 10 years. There's two. I really enjoyed the Anza Borrego area. I mentioned that I was staying at the Ocotillo Wells. That was the Leaping Lizard RV Park in Ocotillo Wells, California. It's out there in the boonies. I'll tell you what. You're in the Imperial Valley. You're about probably 45 miles from, I think it's Bradley, California, is kind of down in that area. But I really like that area a lot. And then probably my second one would be Rushmore. I had been to Rushmore several times, but we just stopped on the way through, and I never really had time to spend a lot of time there at Rushmore. But I really liked Rushmore a lot. Those are things. Those are a couple of places that I really liked a lot. Larry says, my wife thinks we need to fix our hot water. It doesn't seem to light. Check the switch. What's the chance it could be a circuit board? Could be. Those are not very sophisticated circuit boards, but you might also check the. You might want to check the thermocouple that is in the gas stream. So if there's no flame, it won't turn the gas on. Those sorts of things. That would be the first thing I would check on a non-working water heater. Of course, make sure the gas is turned on. Those sorts of things. Renogy and Jackery make good stuff. They're very, very popular, and people swear by them. So I think the Renogy and Jackery system are really, really good. Yeah, that's a good question, Aaron. He's asking Larry if it's electric or gas or both. That thinks Campground says she has that small current draining my coach battery too. Yeah, it's not that uncommon, particularly in RVs, that you have these little sneak currents. In that particular case, Linda, just make sure you start the engine, let it run for 5 or 10 minutes every 2 or 3 days. That should keep your chassis batteries tuned up. Yes, the alternator may charge your coach batteries. It depends. It would be specific to your rig. I know that in my rig and many Class A's, they do have the ability to charge when you're rolling down the road. There's a charge sensor in the, and this is in my particular case, there's a charge switch and sensor in the back, and what it does is it monitors the coach batteries. The coach batteries are the chassis batteries. Okay, those are the starting batteries for your RV. And when they come up to 13.6 volts, then a little relay switches, and it sends that current coming from your alternator to your batteries. In your Class C, I don't know if that was as common in Class C's as it is in Class A. But definitely, it is something you can do. It's fairly inexpensive, and it's pretty straightforward to do, actually, to get your coach batteries, your house batteries to charge as you're driving down the road. It's definitely something that can be done. You're very welcome, Dennis. Gene Kidd, I've got to go. Thanks for the help. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming, Gene. Look forward to seeing you next week. Sue Kelly, yeah, great night. Thanks. Try removing the neg on the bats and see if it still drains down. Good call. Appreciate you. Yeah, you're welcome, Stephen. Again, don't forget to let me know what's going on. Comment from Phoenix Rising. A parasitic drain is when something is using your battery when your vehicle isn't running. Yes, exactly. Parasitic, sneak current. Very good point. And that parasitic current could be something as simple as the dash radio. Maybe there's a light or something turned on that you're not seeing. I know that every once in a while I'll forget and leave my basement lights on, you know, they're a little light in the basement. And so I like to try to go around and check that every once in a while. Noise that sounds like crackling. I wonder if it got some leaves in the fan cage up where the fan is in your AC. There is a video on my channel about cleaning your rooftop air conditioners. But yeah, I'm guessing that it's probably there's something inside of there that's rubbing against the fan when the squirrel cage fan runs in there to blow air through the AC. It might not hurt to carefully get up on the roof, pop that cover off, the fairing, the shroud over your AC. And I want to caution you, after sitting in the sun for a long time, those shrouds get very, 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 very brittle. I had to replace mine in 2016. I got up there to clean them up, to get up and do maintenance on them, to blow the coils out and those sorts of things, like you see me do in the video on cleaning my AC. And the screw holes on the shroud were all ruined. In fact, how many times have you been driving down the road and you see the air conditioner shroud laying off the side of the interstate? Well, that's because those shrouds, they get really brittle sitting in the sun, and they need to be replaced every probably 10 years or so. So be really careful when you take that off. Don't over torque the screws. You know, make sure the screws are nice. You know, get the screws out, then lift it off and look in there and see if there's an insect nest, a wasp nest, or anything like that. Maybe some leaves, maybe a mouse or some kind of a rodent got in there and built a little nest, and there's something in there that's touching those fan blades. Make sure the power's turned off before you take the shroud cover off. And you might just get up in there and look, and it might be something you can fix yourself. If you can't find it, then it might be time to either call a mobile RV repair tech or go take it to the shop and have it looked at. Hope that helps, Julie. Nature's Head, Sue. Nature's Head is the one that I'm most familiar with. In fact, I wanted to get one for my RV and still considering it for my new one, for my new rig. But my good friends Zach and Tiff from Rolling Vistas have the Nature's Head, and they love it. They swear by it. They said it's the best thing since sliced cheese. So I think the Nature's Head is the one I have the most experience with. Campground ones. Jamie let us use this 1,000-watt Jackery. Yeah, the Jackery is a good system. Oh, okay. And Linda says she had that hook up to charge her house batteries from her alternator in her Toyota. Not sure about the Ford. I'm not sure either. But it's definitely something that's easy enough to do. Oh, and Linda's Campground one, I should say, she had a huge wasp nest in her Toyota last year. I had gotten them out of the fan area. It was tricky. Yeah, it can be, but when you're up there and if you have those animal insect nests or anything like that, you want to be really careful of those little splines on the cooling coils because they're really fragile, and if you bend them over, it reduces the efficiency. So you want to be super careful if you're in there digging around trying to remove animal nests, bird nests, that kind of stuff. But it's definitely something that anybody should be able to get up there, pop that cover off, and check and just make sure there's not leaves or something else in there that's causing that noise. You're welcome, Julie, anytime. All right, so we're into this for an hour. We'll go around one more time just to make sure that nothing else has come up. In the meantime, thanks everybody so much. I do invite you to go over and check out my website at trbolin.com. Not only will you find some really, pat yourself on the back, some really good photography, but there's quite a few RV articles over there. I usually try to post a companion article around all my RV how-tos over on my website. I know that one of my most favorite pages is one of the ones that get hits the most is the BioGeo method cheat sheet. It's a little 2-page pamphlet that goes through all of the details around maintaining your RV's holding tank, keeping it fresh and working properly, draining correctly, get your gauges working and all that. And we'll have a discussion around that here one of these first nights real soon. By the way, thank you, Aaron. That's a reminder. If you like what you're seeing, be sure and give me that thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, be sure and subscribe. I'll be doing these Tuesday night Q&A sessions for this foreseeable future. So it's your opportunity to ask great questions. Also get some great input from some of the more seasoned salt and pepper. Anybody? Seasoned RVers. And like I did with our buddy out there in Arkansas, I went and did some work and did a little research on Gary's, was it Gary? Yeah, it was Gary. No, Larry. Larry's issue with his generator, and I'm happy to do that. So if you want to submit a question in advance, there's a link in the description below where you can go and you can submit it in advance, and that'll give me a chance to go and do a little research. Also, your support of my Amazon store is overwhelming. It's greatly appreciated. Had a couple more quick questions come in, and then we'll probably wrap her up. Where can I find an owner's manual for the Ford Eldorado? Okay, go to the website www.irv2.com. Look in the members forum or the owners forums. You will find you will probably find Ford Class C's like that, and ask them on that forum. Somebody probably has one as a PDF. They'll be happy to email it to you or post it where you can get to it. So that's at irv2.com. That's a great resource for stuff like that. Anyone know the low point drain under a Fleetwood Terra 2007? Typically your low point drains should be accessible from your water bay. You may have to look around under, or like in my water bay, there's a cover that has all the connections on it. I've got my water filter and that stuff on it, and then my low point drains, although they're marked on the water bay, are clear down and back behind, and that would be a good place to look. They're usually accessible from the water bay, and or directly underneath your water bay. Hope that helped, Deborah. Okay, I will watch your video, and if you're back next week, Camp Goer, I will answer. My guess is that there's these little gaskets available, and you probably just need to change the gaskets in your in your pipes where the connections are. And which reminds me, there's a link in the description below to my Amazon store, and you can get pretty much everything that you need to maintain your RV that's non-specific to the coach, but like hoses and all that kind of stuff. Those little gaskets, that I think there's a package of 8 of them available for about $6. And it's a good idea just to keep some handy with you, because those little gaskets that sit inside those hose flanges, they do wear out and get brittle, and they will leak a little bit. Deb asks, can I use fiberglass to repair the freshwater holding tank, or the spout at the bottom is broken off completely? yes, you can, Deb, use fiberglass. The trick there is to be sure that everything is really dry. You're going to want to make sure there's no moisture at all anywhere. And the spout at the bottom is broken off completely. Yeah. And then Deborah Riddell asks, under the RV? Yeah, underneath the water bay, you might find two little hoses or a little hose sticking out 3 or 4 inches. Trace that hose up, because one of those will be an overflow to let you know when your tank is full. There's an overflow at the top of the tank. And then there may be another one in there that is the low point drain. But I will do this. Fleetwood Terra. Low point drain. I will research that and let you know. See you next Tuesday, and I'll have an answer for you. All right. Well, we're well past the time that I had allocated, but that's great. I thank you, everybody, for the super chats. Thanks for the great questions. Definitely time to quit because I'm getting bumble-tongued. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining me tonight. And I guess that's probably it. Aaron and I will be in touch. And until next week, peace. Bye.